So while that is done, I would like us to go straight into this presentation. And the first presentation is on the power of benefits of an ethical company. Now, there are various reasons why we have SMEs coming up with companies, setting up organizations. And one of the most important objectives is to ensure that the business runs successfully and also is sustainable. And for you to be able to achieve this goal as an SME, it is very important for you to run an ethical business. So we just want to talk briefly about this now, and I'm going to bring up Mr. Nerus Okezie and Ms. Hamina Akai to run this session. But this session is going to start with the presentation from Mr. Nerus, while Ms. Hamina Akai will continue. So Nerus Okezie, please, you have the floor now. You can take it up from here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much for this wonderful tone setting. My name is Nerus Okezie. Admin, please, can you enable my camera? Thank you. All right. Why that?
You can share your screen, sir.
No, please share. Tunde, please share the screen. Okay. While that is being awaited, I would first of all like to congratulate all of us who have made up time to join. We are actually expecting a lot more people because we have more than 250,000 that's registered for this program. And that gives us here, all of us, the partners of this program, some good level of comfort that this crusade surrounding anti-corruption and ethics compliance is indeed gaining some level of traction. I want to believe as we go on, others will join. I will be discussing the power and benefit of an ethical company. I know most of us here would like to let us know that ethics, we know now. Of course, we know what is ethics, and but it goes beyond just what you know about ethics. Okay, it goes beyond rhetorics. It's what we are now looking at: action-based ethical conduct, because we have found out from research this is what we call the health status of your organization. Okay, any organization can be measured. The health strength of any organization can be measured by its ethical conduct and ethical practices. And that's the reason why it is important that ethical compliance in running your businesses have become imperative, especially in this 21st century. Let's start by looking at what is even ethics. Of course, most of us know that ethics is a set of laws about how a company should conduct itself. And conducting a company conducting itself within a set of law means that company will have what we call code of ethics. There should be some processes. There should be some procedures. There should be certain direction on how elements within that organization should behave. And not only should behave, that will form what we can call a culture of behavior of that organization. So if that is not done, which means a company is exposing itself into what we call unethical practices. And what are those unethical practices? Unethical practices can be seen to be some of these issues mentioned here: extortion, fraud, deception, collusion, coercion, money laundering. All these, remember our definition initially, can be termed as symptoms of dying company, or a company that has been destined to die. Any company who is indulging in these elements mentioned now, is just with time that company will eclipse. Yes, some may call it being sharp. Yeah, you can be sharp initially and succeed in that sharp practice. But believe you me, several research has proved that within a short time, not even a long time again, that company eclipse. And that is why we said it is better for an organization to run its organization ethically. And by running it ethically, that organization means they are honest and truthful with their employees and customers. That organization also, they don't make promises and fail. They make promises they can keep. Okay? They don't take shortcuts in achieving any particular goal. They treat their stakeholders with respect. And of course, they raise the standard of service delivery. And of course, standard of product quality too. They value reputation, which is critical for an organization. Even as an individual, we don't joke with our reputation. So why should we joke with your company's reputation? And invariably, if these are in place, that organization is going to be profitable and sustainable. And of course, you can't be profitable and sustainable without being accountable. So these are critical elements you must consider to run your organization ethically. We are going to be a bit fast because this is my presentation in just 10 minutes. So we look at the business case. What do we stand to gain? Some people will say, I've been honest, but I'm not seeing the results. To be ethical, there is a business case for it. You can see the company has a lot to benefit. You can see long-term sustainability, anti-corruption tool, because being ethical is an anti-corruption tool, okay? Improve oversight and monitoring, perform better operationally and financially, ensure effective decision-making. On the resource that you gain, you will have better access to capital. Of course, if two organizations visit a bank to raise a loan, of course, the credit officers are looking at those indicators that shows this company is run ethically, okay? And part of the resource you are going to enjoy by having an ethical company is a human resource, and of course, the material resource. Now, if you supply raw materials or what we call primary product for others, because they know your organization run ethically, you are going to have a lot of orders from other organizations that rely on your product or service, okay, to produce. There is also the benefit to you as an entrepreneur. It gives you peace of mind. Peace of mind, you sleep and sleep like a baby, because you know if you are asked of anything at any time, you are transparent, you are open, okay? And then when it gives you peace of mind, of course, it will improve the quality of life. You agree with me, whatever we do, our life is important. So whatever you can do that can improve the quality of your life, honestly speaking, it is a good thing to do. And of course, it gives us long-term sustainability for future generations. what you leave behind, you leave it behind for the future organizations, okay? So cost of corruption practices in a company, you can imagine what it does. High cost of doing business. It increases your cost of doing business. Those kickbacks and bribes, by the time you put them together, honestly speaking, you'll be amazed and surprised what it has cost your organization. Bad reputation, nobody jokes with reputation, both as an individual or as a company, because if a reputation is not there, the tendency for that organization to collapse is there, okay? Global competitiveness is important when you run your company ethically, okay? And then the risk of bankruptcy will not be there because you are not thinking that you're going to fail, okay? And so it is important you embrace ethical conduct in how you do your business. And all of this, as we're going to be talking to you later on in subsequent engagements, is embedded into Ethics First, which is a platform for entrepreneurs to come in, that entrepreneurs that are ethically compliant, that will be ready to compete globally, that will be ready to meet global organizations, partners, and improve their business. So good business ethics leads to, like we said earlier, enhance your reputation. It's a greater level of employment commitment to be witnessed. It increases customer satisfaction, trust, and loyalty. Of course, bigger shareholders' investments. That organization that is run ethically, that is where you and I want to go and buy a share because we believe that organization is solid. And of course, in doing all this, higher profit is guaranteed. And then, of course, it attracts human resource because people would want to, okay, move towards an organization that they believe is ethically run. And of course, it gives you access to capital. So there are some principles. Of course, there are a lot of principles, ethical principles, but there are some principles we'll look at here. This is just a framework of the principles of ethics. Ethical principles, they are like statements that provide guidance and direction for behavior. Of course, relate to customers such as fairness, equity, and justice that are also universal and also set specific boundaries that should be respected. At this juncture, I will invite my colleague, Amina Kai, to take you through those ethical principles. We may opportunity to ask questions at the end of this presentation, but because of time constraint, I will hand over to Amina Kai, who will take you through on these principles, and then thereafter you can engage us further with your questions. Thank you very much for your rapt attention.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Neros. So I'll continue from where Mr. Neros, he didn't stop. So I'll just pick up from there. So we'll talk about these principles of business ethics. From what Mr. Neros said, these are just principles that drive desired ethical behavior. That and ethics is it's a lifestyle. It has to be a lifestyle. It has to be like your life. Your life must be ethical in everything that you do. Please, next slide. Okay, we have basically, we're looking at 12 basic business ethic principles. I think there are more than that, but for this particular time, we're going to just look at 12 of them. One is leadership. You take control, you adopt and integrate and emulate that. These other 11 principles are going to guide you, and you're going to take leader. You'll be the leader. You live it as a professional and in your personal life. That you be accountable also you hold yourself accountable to be ethical in everything that you do. And also you ensure that all, especially in your company, are also being ethical in everything that they do. And then you should be a person of integrity. Your company should also be a company of integrity, where all the principles, you incorporate all the principles, you're honest, you're trustworthy, you're reliable in everything. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. If you say this is your standards, you stick to those standards and not change them. You have respect for others, and that fosters a good workplace. In the place where you work and then everybody's just not respecting, or even the boss is not being respectful, it will flow from the top to the bottom. So everyone deserves dignity, privacy, equality, and you treat people with respect. That you're honest in everything that you do, not partial truths, saying one thing now and doing a different thing later, and then blaming other people for all your mistakes or all those lies that you've said. But you're honest in everything that you do. Say in your business, you tell people the truth, that this thing is like this. These are the contents of this. We clean the place, we do this, and honestly, that's how it happens. So it helps to improve, and it helps to improve performance for your business and for other things around you. You respect for others, respect for the law of the land. If we are supposed to pay taxes at certain places, you pay those taxes, not try to cut corners, or you change figures from your bank statement. You're not giving the exact bank statement so that you're not paying more taxes. You respect the laws as simple as even traffic lights. Just stop when it says stop. That's as easy as that. But you respect the laws of the land, the local, the national, and the international laws. You take responsibility and allow your employers to be responsible for their work. You're not a boss who does the work of everybody. Everybody should take responsibility for their work. If you're the boss who does things, learn to give people responsibilities. Be compassionate. If there's no compassion in a certain place, the atmosphere will be very toxic. But be compassionate to your community, to that business. If you're compassionate, of course, it will reflect in your business and your partners. Then be fair, treat people fairly, be a fair business person. They all add up to be ethical. Next slide, please. Be transparent in everything that has to do with business. You can have your trade secrets, which you would keep, of course, but then you should try and share information with your staff, with your business partners, not that you share some and keep some, especially if you're doing it with partners. A lot of people do that. They don't divulge all the profit or everything that is there. Will keep some and tell them just this one. You have to be loyal to your company. I think the last training was when Modupe gave an example of a staff of a school who was selling the uniforms, or who was making contact with parents and showing them where to get uniforms while the school was selling. That means that staff is not loyal to the school at all. So you should inspire your employees to be loyal and then ensure that they're committed to best practices of your company. There are environmental concerns. This has been added in almost everything that we do now. Whatever it is you're doing, you're concerned about the environment. There's you reduce waste, and that will help also in the ecosystem. I know some companies now have dumps of their bins. You put recycles, you put paper, and most people have even taken out paper as a whole. So if you have to also be concerned about the environment where you live, and then cleanliness is next to godliness anyway. So in building an ethical company, businesses must be purposeful in developing ethical corporate culture. And to do this, you have to set certain goals. We're taking three goals. You'll set goals to prevent, to detect, and then to respond to. To prevent, you have things like you conduct risk assessments. Where are the highest risks of your company, so that you determine that. You have policies and procedures. You go through trainings. You communicate those information to staff and your stakeholders. And then what are the response prevention? So to detect, what are the goals you set for compliance infrastructure in your company? You monitor, and then testing and auditing. Then respond. It has to do with discipline. When you get all this information, what are the policies in your company for discipline, for incentives, reporting and investigation, whistleblowing, and all that? What are the incentives for that? What do you do when you get all these reports, and what do you do with it? Next slide. So, Mr. Narus, I don't know if you want to just say a few things. Our time is up.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Amina. Participants, our apologies for just giving you only teasers. These are just teasers. The main program, the main training is on the way. That we will announce to you as we proceed. It's just a little feedback from you. Let's take number one. What value would you like to see govern your organization? You can just put it in a chat. In the next 1 minute, we'll look at it. From what we have said so far, what values would you like to see govern your organization? Please put it in the chat as quickly as you can. The second one, the list of 5 values most important to you, and say why. This is takeaway assignment. You would tell us the reason why you chose them in the next training. You will also be invited to that training. But the first one, please click on the charts. What values would you like to see govern your organization? I know most of the organizations that are here, of course, have values. Accountability. Thank you from our officer. Let's see more. Honesty, integrity, transparency, dedication, that is commitment. Thank you. Compassion. Thank you very much, Bemishala. Reliability, integrity, loyalty, sustainability. Wonderful. This is amazing. Career development. respect, excellence, quality, simplicity. You can see this is to show that we are following the program very well. We appreciate this feedback. Diversity and inclusion. I think you are just in the right place, professionalism. And we will urge you to please continue with us in this journey on how to make you run your organization ethically. Some of you may also be doing wonderfully well already, but I still believe there are more and more you can learn from us, especially with the introduction of Ethics First. Ethics First is going to be a wonderful platform for all of us. And when we get there, we'll give you full explanation on what Ethics First is all about. With that, we will end this particular session. If you have questions, please go ahead and ask your questions. Let's do 2 minutes for question and answer before we bring in the panel discussion to continue from where we stopped.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Neros, for the wonderful presentation with your co-presenter, Ms. Amina Kai. So our audience, just as you have heard, there is an opportunity for you to ask your questions. Simply drop it on the chat box so that we can accumulate them and then address them at the same time. So with the session rounding up, the X Academy, NGX Academy, to bring up stage the panelists so that discussion can continue. Meanwhile, we are expecting questions on the chat box so that during the Q&A session, we can have all of them addressed at the same time. Remember our housekeeping rules. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Solomon. So, Gochi, please.
Thank you so much, Solomon and Mr. Neros, for that. And thank you, everybody, and thank you for joining in. You are indeed welcome, and you're in the right place. Now you've heard so much about ethics. You've heard about from Amina and Mr. Neros about ethics. We thought that when you've heard it, you want to understand how to establish a competitive advantage over the next business. And we believe that the best people to tell you that are those that are actually in the field, and they will tell you how and where, what they did to be able to accomplish it and to have the the competitive advantage. Remember that this program is brought to you and is powered by SIPE, Ethics First, ACCI, Best Center, IODCCG, and the NGX X Academy. Now, I'd like to introduce you to the panel. I'll be moderating it, and I have in the panel Mr. Soji Apampa, I have Mrs. Bosun Solari, and Mrs. Victoria Madedo. And they'll be speaking to you on various topics, and to give you a real life scenario of different things that would help you. To give you a bit more in depth on these experts and to showcase their expertise, I have Mrs. Solari, who is the CEO and founder of Datsun Integrated Farms Limited, a company that trades in agro-processed foods. She has over 30 products within spices, flour, herbs, dried fish categories, and she introduced 10 new products in the herbal tea category after her Ethics First training. She's currently in the Ethics First Silver category and the process of achieving the Gold category. I have Victoria Madedo, who is the Group Head Business Development, BOI Investment and Trust Co. Limited. a subsidiary of BOI Nigeria. She's a resource person for several organizations, on which you can see includes the Lagos State Government, Edo State Government. She sits as board advisor to several agribusiness organizations and is the initiator of the slum inclusion. I finally have with us, I'll always tease him and say the only male among the females, Mr. Soji Apampa, who is the co-founder and CEO of the Integrity Organization, one of the initiators of the Convention on Business Integrity, CBI. He has led the effort to design, pilot, and deploy the CGRS in collaboration with the Nigerian Exchange, and also has led, has also done some work for the Maritime Anti-Corruption Network in Nigeria, which has led to successes shared with the Nigerian government called the Nigeria Miracle. He is a fellow of the Free Enterprise Democracy Network managed by SIPE. And just recently, he was nominated by NASG to represent the private sector on Open Government Partnership of Nigeria. So welcome, everybody. Please put on your video so that they can see you. Thank you. Fantastic.
My video is disabled, please.
Okay, so please help in that so that they'll have and people can associate with them. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So my first question actually goes to Soji. Tell us, what is business ethics and what does it mean to have an ethical company?
Okay, put very simply, you know, from what had been presented earlier, because I watched some of it, it is a set of moral principles that compel you internally to do the right things consistently and to do things right consistently. That is really what business ethics is. It's not what you write on a wall. It's what actually controls your behavior in business. Then how we know business ethics also is when we see that a company not only chooses to do the right things, but is able to cause the right things to be done by its employees and within its ecosystem. That's what it means to be ethical in practice.
Thank you. And have you said that, what would you think will be the advantage of an ethical business and why is this important?
Okay, let me give you what people consider to be disadvantage and then the advantage at the same time countering it. Because you see, people say that regulators don't care how I make my money. No regulator is bothered with that. Yes, so why do you ask me to do this ethics thing? But we know that the day you want to share the value of your company and someone does due diligence and they find that it is based on corrupt, unethical practices, that you have built the value, in quotes, that you think you have, they discount you immediately. Nobody will touch such a company. You might find out that you build an empire that nobody will buy, that you can't actually sell it because it doesn't have any sustainable value. So first advantage is building real value behind your brand. Second thing is that people believe that clients don't care. They don't care whether you have business ethics or not. In fact, clients are looking for an accountant who knows them in the tax office, and they're looking for a lawyer that knows the judge. So what is this business ethics you're telling me about? But business ethics is like you go into a boxing match, then they have a big henchman to hold you down and hold your hands down while your competitor has metal things inside their boxing gloves and they can pound you to death. Without ethical conduct in the marketplace, there isn't a level playing field. you cannot actually survive. You cannot compete. And thirdly and finally, many people think that it's just a nice to have. You know, why should we care about business ethics? It's good, oh, we know, but you won't put food on your table. But the truth is that if there are no ethics, you cannot have sustainable practices, which means that if somebody then claims that this product is free of poisons, you need to go and test it because they have no ethics and you cannot rely on what they're saying. It is part of why Nigeria is finding it difficult to export, because we have not lived up to the simple tenets of business ethics. So it will affect everybody in society, affects the value of your company, affects what consumers get, and affects our society as a whole and our ability to progress. Those are the advantages from my view.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow, that really shows how important it is for a company to be ethical. Moving on to Victoria. Victoria, being your company, being an investor in so many companies, you know, smaller growing businesses, how does having an ethical company, from what Soji has said, you know, has given us the importance, but how does having an ethical company give the company a competitive advantage?
Thank you very much, Goti. So in raising funds and
I'm sorry, Victoria, your
investment,
video isn't on. Is that? Okay.
My network is a little bit bad, so
please go on.
Put it on.
Yes, please go on.
Okay, so in raising funds over the years, about 12 years, I've been raising funds for small businesses, both debt and equity and grant funding. I realized that the major things that investors want to see and they're looking out for is companies who follow the rules, who are ethical, they comply to regulations, right? Are you paying your taxes? If you can cheat the government, automatically they believe you can cheat them, right? Then if you are using your personal account to run your business instead of the business account, meanwhile, you're a legal entity, you have a legal entity, you're not giving the legal entity a life of its own, then they believe that your idea about running a business is just for you to embezzle money. So that's the perception that comes into play, that you're not there for the greater good. You're only there for your selfish interest. So if they invest money in your business, it means that you don't have their back. You don't have their interest at heart. No matter how you try to put it around, they're looking at people who are filing their annual returns, right? How are you going about it? Are you going about it the right way? Do you do your declaration properly? Do you get your accounts audited as at when due, or you drag it until such a time when it is needed before you decide to get an auditor to look at your books? Your vendors, how do you recruit? How do you work with your vendors? Do you have service level agreement? Do you have all those procedures in place that allows for transparency so that it gives them that kind of comfort that their money is safe with you? That is very critical thing I've observed over the years. So being ethical is a no-brainer. It gives you a competitive advantage and edge over every other person, because the funds are not as much as the demand, right, for those money. So they use these criteria to pick from the pool of applicants those that they would want to support. Thank you.
Great, and that's regardless of the size of the company. So you could be competing against a very big company, and it's just because your company is ethical, and that can give you the competitive advantage to be chosen. Thank you, Victoria. So, Bosso, you as a small growing business owner, how has having an ethical company benefited you, or have given you an advantage?
Thank you so much. My name is Bosun again. Let me first start to say that being ethical is a choice. It's when I can choose to do wrong and I can choose to do right. But when I do each of them, what do I suffer in the process? So it now means that I must have a set of values that shape whatever I do. And those values people have talked about today. I don't need to repeat them. However, being ethical, when I chose to go through this course, of course, I read about the benefits of being able to do business with big companies, being able to go globally, being able to go into the international arena, and then being able to avoid fundamental risks. So I looked at all those ones, and then because I want to build an empire, like I usually tell them when we're in class. So for me, it's not now going to be a child's play for me to do things anyhow. So I went into that course, and for so many of us that are MSMEs here today that are listening, that course will not be too easy. I'm not trying to, because you will need to go to the class, you will need to do your assignments. And some of us will like to give excuses. You can't go far if all you do is to keep giving excuses why certain things cannot be done. It's still a choice for you to say, okay, whatever this thing takes, I'm going to give it in. Otherwise, why are you running the business? So for me, I was in class, I was doing everything that I needed to do. And even when in the class and they talked about going out to look, talking about setting up a board. This was something I wanted to do over 2 years ago that I never did. But when it was mentioned, I went all out for it. And today I can tell you the values of accountability. Today, I am going to look at, before I do anything, I'm going to say, what will my board chairman say? What will SIBE say? What can I defend this certificate that I have in my hand? So for me, all those things are important. And to also say, while I was thinking of what to talk about today, I'm like, okay, I must lead by example. I must stand for something. I shouldn't be sitting on the fence, that a little to the right, a little to the left. What do I really stand for? Let people know you for what you stand for. I'm not going to take a bribe. It's a choice. Even though I don't get some things, a contract that I'm bidding for, I don't get to do some things, but it's a choice for me, because all I want to do is to build an ethical company that can last, that can stand the test of time. So I was now saying that in everything I do I think of the 4-way test? I'm just saying that. Will it be the truth? Will it be fair? Will it build goodwill? Will it be profitable to everybody?
Yeah.
Will it help everyone? So for me, let your inner conscience also guide you. Thank you.
Thank you. And you said that, being ethical, having an ethical company has given you opportunities, and like you said, helped you to build the empire, which has helped you to increase the number of spices that you had done and tea categories. Fantastic, Bosu. Victoria, in everything we've said, we've not really mentioned numbers, which I'm sure is the most important thing for businesses. So would you say that having an ethical company can increase your financial performance? Most people say, unlike what you had mentioned earlier, that one thing they say is that, oh, I lost this business because I was ethical. I didn't get these deals. I'm losing money. Why do I have to be ethical? But can you, having helped organizations, can you say that being ethical would help them increase their financial performance?
Okay, so I'll give you a practical example. There's a company that wanted to do a business with the top pharmaceuticals, right, in Nigeria. And it had to do with egg powder. When they started, they were trying to, as much as possible, meet all the standards and regulations, and they were really on top of their game. Along the line, because of cost of production significantly increased, and they didn't want to increase the price, given the fact that they are new players, they decided to buy eggs from just anybody. Normally, they buy from only those that do not use antibiotics. So they decided to buy from just anybody because the price is cheaper. That, oh, they've shown that they have standards, so it won't be an issue. Unfortunately, it led to the company going moribund, because that particular batch was one of the random batches they decided to test. And when they tested the egg powder, they found out that it had traces of antibiotics in them. And that's the end of the business. So none of the big farmers took products from them again. So yes, they were still selling, but they weren't selling the kind of volume they wanted to. So it's the same thing.
You're muted.
It's the same thing with our everyday business. If you do not do the right things, if you're not ethical, if you try to breach protocols and processes just so that you can make better margins, you will lose customers that are sustainable and that can give you the kind of volume and the kind of margin that will keep you in business. So being ethical is non-negotiable. You see some people go the extra mile getting ISO certifications, because when they do, it opens the door for them to another level of markets, right? Then you see people who they say, I don't mind, even though I have NAFDAC number, those pure water people, they say, I have NAFDAC number and it has an L at the back, at the end of it, which means it's a low quality, but it's manageable. So some people do not even understand this. And when you take those kind of products to airlines or big organizations, they won't buy it because they understand the principle behind the NAFDAC numbering. So you cannot just throw away that fact that doing the right thing for yourself, for your sanity, for your own conscience, to say when there are challenges, you can beat your chest to say, no, I did the right thing. I'm sure it's not from what I did that is causing this challenge. And you can trace it back to where the problem is. So having standard operating procedures, following the regulations, the rules, it unlocks doors for you. It opens new markets and allows you to create market shares in the markets.
Thank you, Victoria. So what I hear, one of the things I hear is that you can be unethical, have an unethical company, and yes, you may be making money, but imagine the volumes you'll be making if you had an ethical company. Thank you. Soji, now we've heard you mentioned just a bit about the challenges that companies can face, and you talked about the advantages and disadvantages. But can you go a little bit in depth on what challenges a company faces while on the journey to becoming ethical and how they can mitigate them?
Yeah, the biggest challenge that most business owners grapple with is the challenge of how to grow the business, especially when it's within a corrupt environment. How do I grow? And how do I move on to the next level? It's always a challenge. But let me give you the story, therefore, of what ethics does. It's like building a pyramid, cone first or base first. The person who builds it cone first, if you bring a pail of water and pour in it, it rises very spectacularly. And people think, wow, you're doing something great. But the higher you build, the bigger it becomes, the more unstable it becomes. But if you build base first, you pour in a bucket of water, people don't even see it. They don't see all the work that is there. But the more you put in, the more steady it becomes, the better. So you're going to need a lot more strategy, a lot more thought, a lot more foresight in order to be able to build ethically, especially in a corrupt environment. It's not for lazy people. You really need to have everything your wits around you, doing the right things, and thinking ahead and working harder than those who take the lazy way out, which is cut corners. To cut corners, yes, it's easy, it's lazy. Sometimes you will not get caught and you get away with it. But the person who builds correctly will continue to grow incrementally, but every growth cannot be reversed. For those who take shortcuts, every growth can be reversed as well. So
Wow.
even for the large company, there's something called disgorgement, that you can even make great profits and then the regulator comes after you and they take greater than the profits you have made through the unethical practices. They disgorge you of it. So really, it is the best way to go. It's a real challenge that you are concerned about how to grow and the pace of growth, but rather grow slowly and surely than the meteoric rise with a big crash after.
Thank you. Thank you. I like the analogy of the cone, building from the top, the pyramid, building from the cone or building from the base. That's a good one. And it is true. Most times people don't realize that, somebody that wants to build an empire, the Twin Tower, the foundation takes time. It doesn't just get a foundation up immediately. Thank you so much, Soji. My final question, with everything that has been said, please, if you have questions, please put them down in the chat and we will answer them. So you were here once when you came into one of these sessions and you listened to what people have said and you thought about your business. You just mentioned that you thought and said, okay, this is nice. But just give me one thing that has kept you on, that you went through the green listing session, went to the silver, and today you're in the process of going gold on the Ethics First platform. What is the one thing that kept you moving?
Thank you so much. The one thing that kept me moving, one of the benefits, like I read out earlier, is to say I can do business globally with big companies. Of course, as someone in the export sector of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I want to go global, not because I can't stay in Nigeria, but you see, sometimes when your market is a bit saturated, you want to go global. And then who even says if I'm doing in Nigeria, I can't go global, like some people will say, have you finished the market in Nigeria that you are going global? It's just a means for you to also expand. So I wanted to expand my business, and for me, that was one thing. So when this came out and I just said, wow, I need to follow through and I need to follow up with everything that is happening. So that was why I followed through. It was, of course, you will lose some time not being able to be at your desk. You will lose some sleepless nights, and then you have to do some thinking. But because I had to do about 26 procedures. And for me, and I asked, why is my procedure much more than the others? And they say, of course, you are going global. You already do export. So much more is expected of you. And I followed through and I became silver. Already, I am doing everything I can to get to gold very soon. So I'm excited. And like I said, when I asked for the inner conscience is to say, as I keep, converting one person, if I speak today and I convert one person, and you speak tomorrow and you convert one person, then we can all keep corruption out of business. And what we call it in class, we keep the spark on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. From what I gather, Ethics First platform would help you in support you in making sure that you get the processes in place, gives you the visibility you want, both local and international, would help handhold you in making sure that you put these measures and things that you have spoken about today. Soji, Victoria, and Bosun have spoken today to guide you. So with that, I say thank you so much, Soji. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Bosun, for your time and for the words of knowledge. I will hand back over to you, Solomon. Thank you. Sorry, on the questions, we will answer the questions as we go immediately after the coming sessions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much, Ugochi, Soji, Bosun, and Victoria. That's so encouraging. And for Bosun, I'm sure we are very proud of you. And we look forward to you supporting as many as possible SMEs, looking forward to be listed on Ethics First platform, so that they can also take advantage of all the benefits that it tends to provide. Now I'll be bringing Hope to speak with us. The next topic is on the Nigeria we want. And I'll be bringing Hope now, Lola Adekonye. Lola is the country director for Nigeria SIPE, and also the program director for Africa. Like I mentioned at the beginning, SIPE is the Center for International Private Enterprise, with objectives of strengthening ethical businesses within and outside of Nigeria. So SIPE is anchoring this as the lead partner with other ABIN members. So Lola, you can take it up now. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Tinuke. I really enjoyed the conversation that all the brilliant colleagues, from Mr. Pampa to the empire builder, Mrs. Sholari, and Mrs. Madedo from BOI, that you had about ethics and integrity. I would be talking about this from another angle and try not to repeat much of what you've said, because I really want a lot of what you've said to sink in. Excuse me, to everyone on the call, if you heard everything they said, what you would have heard is this, and this is what I heard as a business person. There is business sense to operating with ethics and integrity. There's a business benefit to operating with ethics and integrity, and the direct linkage is clear. That resonates with me. From my standpoint, which is at the Center for International Private Enterprise, where we work on anti-corruption programs, I would put in that word corruption in the context of this discussion, and it may not have come up in this discussion before. And why do I do that? It's because many of you would know, anytime you have conversations with your colleagues around the world and you talk about Nigeria, it's one of two things when you think about the negative, which often is the case. It's the poverty capital now of Africa and of the world. But oh, Nigeria is fantastically corrupt. Even one of our presidents admitted that. So I'm going to be talking about this from these three angles. The first one is this idea of Nigeria is fantastically corrupt. When investors think about coming to do business in Africa, there are only about 2 or 3 countries that they may go to and not really worry about corruption. For Nigeria, it is in fact, it's a line item on how to handle corruption. And we can talk about what that means. So the first thing I want to talk about is the brand compromise that Nigerian companies, especially MSMEs, have. I see folks from ACCI here. You know, I see IOD-CCG and the excellent ABIN members, NGX. Ugochi did an excellent job moderating that session before we started. And you interact with small and mid-sized businesses every day and try to create trading opportunities for these businesses across West Africa, across Africa, and globally. However, in doing that, these businesses will always carry that brand that they're from Nigeria. And unfortunately, that brand means that they are adept, whether they are or they are not, in engaging in corrupt activity, in cutting corners when they do business, in not meeting the standards expected of partners in more developed countries. Even Kenya would not face the kinds of challenges with exports that Nigeria faces, and data confirms this. So Nigerian businesses, and if you run a business in Nigeria, and this is something that Ms. Sholari quickly recognized, you already have that brand compromise by virtue of being an indigenous Nigerian business when it comes to doing business with your counterparts anywhere else including in Africa, but anywhere else in the world. Now, you may not even be exporting your goods, but you may want to access finance, and the finance may come from, IFC or other international organizations that have stringent standards around due diligence and anti-corruption. And so this already compromises. You don't need to do anything else to have that brand compromise because of that exposure. So that's one. So that's the perspective on corruption and the impact on business. The second thing about this is short-sightedness of our business environment and the majority of the business orientation. What do I mean by short-sightedness? A few weeks ago, we were trying to do a count of indigenous Nigerian businesses that have outlived their founders compared to other economies that are as big as Nigeria. And we found much fewer businesses in Nigeria that have outlived the founders that are still running today, indigenous Nigerian businesses. And in trying to understand why, and this is common across Africa, we realized that many businesses start up family-owned, the founder is there and doing well, but then the structures, the policies and procedures that support the corporate system, they don't get set up. And unfortunately, in some other cases, it's not even that they don't get set up, but an outright corruption happens, and there are some examples, and I'll give you some names. And then the business does not survive it. The business has no guardrails to prevent the corrupt activity. And corruption is not only bribes, right? Corruption involved conflict of interest, self-dealing. That's what has killed many businesses, many indigenous businesses. And so there were no guardrails to prevent them. But when the self-dealing crept into the business, there wasn't a way to quickly detect it, and then there was no mitigation. It's either the business doubled down on the corrupt activity or crumbled and didn't take action to mitigate what had happened. And so the question is, did the business owners know what to do, or were they too afraid to do what they needed to do? And many businesses in more developed economies go through this. They will be involved in a corruption scandal, but they will rectify the corruption scandal and get back in business. So the short-sightedness in the orientation of businesses has made corruption a bigger problem than it would have been for Nigerian businesses. So think about that too, second problem. And finally, we've been talking corruption, we've been talking ethics. It's starting to look like once you're ethical for life. It is a destination. You can never be corrupt. Is that true? Also, once you're ethical, Mr. Apampa's organization can see the business and say, this business is ethical. It's in their name, let's say Best Limited is Best Limited ethical. How do you know that you're ethical? As an individual who starts a business, you may have very high standards. You may have good principles and values personally, but how do you know that this carries on in your business? And how, if I want to give your business a grant, how would I know that this carries on in your business? And this is all linked. These 3 points are all linked. The first point about your brand compromise is linked to this last one, and it's linked to the short-sightedness idea, and to the very last one, which is, how do I know? How do I know you're committed to ethics and integrity? And that's where I want to end, by answering that question. If, take a business, Wednesday Nigeria Limited is a Nigerian business set up by an indigenous Nigerian. If Wednesday Nigeria Limited is compromised, as I said, brand compromised by being a Nigerian business, and any company that wants to do work with me, first of all, starts off with, oh, they're in Nigeria, they're very corrupt, so I must put a premium on any funding I give them. or I must do extra due diligence that takes 2 or 3 more years and costs me more, which means I will prioritize going to a less corrupt country before I come to do business with Wednesday Nigeria Limited. If that is my fate, what should I do? I will try not to be short-sighted about building my business. The opportunities will not come to me as quickly as they will go to my counterparts in Norway. They will not come to me as quickly as they will go to my counterparts in other countries that are less corrupt, that don't have that brand compromise. But does that mean I'll give up? No, I will build an empire. I'll put the right structures and the policies and the procedures and the guardrails in place. I will make them look better than any other company in my industry. They will compete with companies anywhere in the world, Japan, in the more advanced economies. I will set that up because I can actually do that. Nothing stops me from doing that in the climate I work. It's just access to the resources that may be a challenge, right? So I'll do that. And then how do I prove that my business is ethical? Because I'll have the documentation of all those policies and procedures working in my business. That's how I'll prove to any business that I can match the standards that any company anywhere else in the world is exporting at. And for me, that will be the answer. It may take me 2 or 3 more years to grow as big as my counterparts in other. I choose Japan and Norway because their corruption levels are low, their industries are better, their regulatory efficiency and transparency is better. I choose them. It may take me 2, 3 more years, but I will get there and I'll be proud of my output. That is how I connect those 3 things. So we talk business ethics and integrity. I'm thinking about it from the perspective of how we can build an organization that we dream of and how that organization can contribute to our country, to the growth and sustainable development of our country. And so I urge you, if every time you think about governance gaps, poor governance, corruption issues in Nigeria, you actually have something to start with. If you're a business owner, you have your company to start with. You have your company to start to develop those systems and that orientation with. And when you do that, you can, 1, demonstrate that you're ethical, your brand truly is ethical. 2, demonstrate that you're not a short-sighted business owner. And 3, you will win yourself of that brand compromise that we have, that you already have by being an indigenous Nigerian business, given that unfortunately Nigeria has that tag of being fantastically corrupt. So how do you do this? And that's exactly what the moderators are going to be telling you about. Access to resources might be costly, but in this site program that launched about 5 years ago, that should no longer be the case. You can access the resources and the support, and you will have the ability to set up programs that meet international best practices. So I hope that this was clear. I'm going to stay on in case there are questions, but in the meantime, I'll hand it back to Tinuke. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Lola, thank you so much for the input, apt and straight to the point as usual. Thank you so much. It's so key that, when you started your world, you said Nigeria is fantastically known for corruption. I was like, so apart from the corrupt attitude, we had to put this big adjective to support it. But this is a collective fight. That's what we are doing, is to actually face these big giants in Nigeria, starting with the private sector and most especially the small businesses. We can imagine the number of small businesses in Nigeria, as the last count is over 50 million or 25 million or so. So if we can even get half of these small businesses conducting their activities ethically, then we'll see the power and the force whereby we could force other institutions, either private or public, to also carry out their activities ethically. Thank you so much for that. So we are gradually coming to the end of this. And to all of our participants that have stayed this far, we appreciate your support and we appreciate you being here. And we hope you are also gaining enough information and knowledge. I see there are some questions on the chat box. We will get to that soon. But before we round up, I'm going to call on Ugochi to wrap up and also for the evaluation of this program and what's next. This is just a starting point. We have a lot of line-up activities and training, communications. We have the Ethics First platform that we want everyone, as much as possible, businesses in Nigeria, to take advantage of the benefits in it. So Ugochi, over to you now to wrap up this and also give us more information about the next steps.
Thank you very much. Mr. Neris, I think you have a bit more information on the next steps.
Okay, well, just a minute. Sorry, Mr. Nerus, I'm thinking maybe we should take the group photographs now that we still have Lola and the panelists on the call. Yeah, so I'm thinking we can, if as much as we can we please put on our cameras so that we can have it, even though it's virtual, it's also good to have the pictures for record and, so please let's try as much as possible to put on our cameras so that we could have a nice pictures. Then Mr. Nerus, you can take it up from there.
Thank you very much for that, Lola. Thank you. Our panelists, you've done a great job. A short section, but packed with information. I hope and I believe we have made some positive impact before our distinguished participants. That next step is flowing from Lola's presentation. That next step is for us to get ready to be listed on Ethics First. Like I mentioned earlier, Ethics First is going to give you that resource you require to place your business and take it to the next level and begin to compete globally. That next step is the step that the ABIN members, is going to take you through the processes for you to get listed. We are planning to now hold the training session sometimes in June, 3rd week of June to be precise. We will communicate the date to you. And we will urge you not only that you are here, please take the message to others that are not here, that you know, other businesses that you know, knowing fully well that, look, all of you here, SMEs, you are the engine of the growth of the nation, economic growth of the nation. You are the engine, you are the majority. Statistics have proven that over the years and even up to now. So collective action is important for those who express concern about the state's attitude towards corruption. The state will have no choice than to align with us. By the time we, the majority, decide we're gonna do our businesses ethically, and we will refuse those extortions from the state that comes after us. They will have no choice than to align with our vision. This is our collective vision and mission. So please, we'll get ready to start the journey. We're gonna take you through the journey. I'm happy we have one of the panelists who have experienced it and have come here to share his experience with all of us. And I think that is a motivating experience. So as part of the wrap-up, we have placed an evaluation form that will take you less than a minute to complete so that we know what next do you want us to do for you. So please tap on the link, fill the evaluation form, and please submit. If we have taken the photograph, we'll invite Ugochi to please dismiss us for today, having spent the time allocated for this program. Thank you very much, Ugochi.
Thank you so much, everybody. And thank you again, Lola, thank you for coming in. I know that's how busy you are, and we are grateful to get that information that you have given to us. We also thank you, the participants, for attending and getting to hear this. That is the first step. So please fill the evaluation link. It's on the chat box now. And if at any point in time you have any question, please email us. We'll be able to answer your question. You can reply the email that you got, or in a few minutes, they will drop an email for you, which you can communicate with, and we will also respond to that. We look forward to you filling the evaluation and telling us about how you would like to join the program. Solomon, is the poster ready about the program so they can at least have a glimpse? If not, we will send it to you in our thank you note with a bit more information. So please look out for your on your emails, and you'll get more information about that training that will give you in-depth knowledge, give you hands-on, take you through the process, so that in a matter of 3 weeks, I guarantee you, in a matter of 3 weeks, you will have started putting processes in place in your organization that will take you to a different level. So thank you very much and have a wonderful evening. Bye.
Bye. Yeah.
Thank you
Bye.
very
Thank you,
much.
Mama.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye-bye. Thank you
Bye.
so
Bye,
much.
Abiola. Thank you.
Register. Thank you
Thank
for your.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you to also ask. Thank you very much, Ugochi.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Fola. Fola, we see your chats. Thank you.